Episode 1: The Teacher Behind the Myth. Jesus, the Man with the Only True Plan, a reality podcast about a human trying to save civilization from itself. What if everything you were taught about Jesus, the miracles, the divinity, the perfection, was actually the least important part of his story? What if the real power was never in the supernatural at all, but in the human clarity underneath it? This podcast isn't about religion, it's about reality. And reality is simple. A first-century man walked into a collapsing world and tried to teach humans how to stop destroying themselves. His plan wasn't mystical. It wasn't magical. It was structural. This is episode 1, The Teacher Behind the Myth. For most of us, Jesus arrives prepackaged. Halo, miracles, divine birth certificate, perfect script, the whole Sunday school starter kit. But strip away the miracle paint job and what's left is far more powerful. Because if Jesus was just a man, then the message stands on its own. No magic required. Modern scholarship tells us something blunt. The Gospels do not preserve Jesus' exact words. They preserve the memory of his meaning. That means the historical Jesus didn't walk around Galilee speaking in King James English like a wandering poet. He spoke Aramaic, short, sharp sayings, punchline wisdom, street-level ethics, and the earliest followers remembered the meaning, not the grammar. When you understand that, the whole story changes. Because we are suddenly looking at not a myth, not a mystical figure, but a real human being teaching a real survival method to real people in a real collapsing society. Sound familiar? Imagine living under an occupying military, a corrupt religious hierarchy, economic inequality, constant surveillance, social fragmentation, and a population traumatized for generations. This was first-century Judea. Rome held the land with an iron fist. Local elites collaborated to keep their own power. Peasants survived one harvest away from starvation. Infant mortality was catastrophic. Violence was the air everyone breathed. The world was breaking. Systems were failing. People were desperate. Sound a little too familiar? Into this world walks a man with no wealth, no army, no institutional backing, and no political power. Just a pattern, a message, a way of living that stops the collapse cycle. He looked at a traumatized, divided people and said something no empire can tolerate. You don't have to live like this. Once you remove the religious varnish, Jesus looks far less like a prophet and far more like a systems thinker, a trauma psychologist 2,000 years ahead of schedule, a philosopher trying to break recursive violence loops. Let's look at him through that lens. 1. His method was behavioral, not ritual, not metaphysical. He starts with, how do you treat your enemy? What do you do with anger? How do you carry injury? What do you do when someone hurts you? How do you respond to corruption? These aren't religious questions, they're survival questions. 2. His ethics break cycles. Turn the other cheek isn't passive, it's a refusal to escalate violence. Love your enemy isn't sentimental, it's trauma interruption. Forgive isn't submission, it's a reset button so harm doesn't metastasize. Jesus was teaching humans how not to become the imbalance that injured them. 3. His worldview is universal, not tribal. Neighbor equals enemy, foreigner, outsider, unclean, other. That alone, in a tribal world, was revolutionary. 4. His target was hypocrisy. And this is crucial. His harshest words were not for sinners. They were for religious leaders performing moral theater while exploiting people. He called them whitewashed tombs, beautiful outside, rotting inside. He wasn't attacking belief. He was attacking corruption, masquerading as holiness. Because hypocrisy collapses civilizations faster than any foreign enemy, and he knew it. Part 4. What his followers saw. Before Christianity became Christianity, before churches, doctrines, creeds, baptisms, or sacraments, before all of that, his earliest followers preserved something different. Not miracle stories, not resurrection theology, not divine identity claims. They preserved sayings. Q source, the Lost Gospel, is likely the earliest written record of Jesus' voice. It contains no virgin birth, no cross, no resurrection, no divinity, no mythology, just instructions, sayings, teachings, psychological resets, ethical reversals, social critiques, warnings about wealth and power, directions for human harmony, a manual for being human in a breaking world, which is exactly what we still need today. Part 5. The clash that silenced the plan. Jesus' plan was dangerous, not because it attacked individuals, but because it attacked systems. He taught, power must be accountable. Wealth is hazardous. Hierarchy is unstable. Hypocrisy is fatal. In-groups are illusions. Enemies must be de-escalated, not destroyed. The kingdom is internal, not institutional. Every one of those ideas is a direct threat to any empire, any church, any political machine. So what happened? The institutions built in his name slowly inverted his teachings. Love your enemy, obey authority. Last shall be first. Hierarchy is God's will. Kingdom within, heaven later if you comply now. Wealth is dangerous, wealth is blessing. Hypocrisy is the worst sin. Institutional image must be protected. Universal neighbor, saved versus unsaved. Integrity over identity, identity over integrity. The plan wasn't lost, it was overwritten. Jesus taught how to prevent collapse. Institutions taught how to survive collapse. Those are not the same thing. Part 6. Why this matters now. Here's the reality. Humanity today is in the same structural crisis as first-century Judea. Trauma cycles, political extremism, wealth concentration, religious nationalism, rival identities, corruption, hypocrisy, social fragmentation, institutional rot, collapse signals everywhere. And once again, the only workable answer is found in a 2,000-year-old pattern taught by a man who needed no miracles. He showed us, if humans break the harm cycle, systems stabilize. If they don't, systems devour themselves. Right now, we are choosing the second path. This podcast exists to put the original path back on the table. Not as religion, not as belief, but as reality. Ending question. If Jesus wasn't trying to save your soul, but trying to save your society, why did the people in power work so hard to bury that version of him? Think about that. This is about Jesus, the man with the only true plan. Not a Christian channel, a reality channel.